Well, welcome to Round the Table with Christian Concern. It's great to see you. And today we're talking about the doctor who saved lives of babies during lockdown and ended up being banned from doing that. This is Dr Dermot Kearney, and we're really hoping that he'll be able to join us today, but I know that he's on call, so he may not be able to. But we do have Rita Kaur, who is one of the mothers who Dermot helped. Rita, are you there? Can you hear us okay? Can you hear us okay, Rita? Getting some issues with the sound there. By the looks of things. Let's let Rita work out the
Sorry,
sound.
I can't seem to hear.
Oh, we can hear you, Rita, now. But she can't hear us. Okay. So, well, while she's fixing that, we've got a video of Dermot that we can play. And I'm informed that he'll be here to join us live in a few minutes as well. But let's play the video of Dermot talking about what happened to him.
Why did I personally get involved in this in the first place? And the basic answer is because the need was there. The women were looking for this service. They could not get it anywhere else, so nobody else was providing the service. So somebody, I felt, had to do it. It's brought a lot of heartache. There were times when I thought, I can't continue this. I've lost 2 babies in a row. But then when you get 3 in a row that are saved, it makes it so much worthwhile. But it's emotionally draining. The GMC wanted us to be suspended completely for 18 months, but the Interim Orders Tribunal said, well, that would be a little bit disproportionate. In my case, I wasn't allowed to administer, prescribe or recommend progesterone for abortion pill reversal. I wasn't also allowed to do any voluntary work whatsoever without GMC permission. It's important to realise that no complaints came from any of the women or from their families or anybody who was directly involved with the service we were providing. It purely came from the abortion providers who didn't like what we were doing. So they complained to the GMC that what we were doing was unethical, that I was bribing these women I was trying to enforce my religious beliefs, my pro-life beliefs on them, which again, there was no evidence for that. And so we knew that the strongest defence we were going to have was going to be from the women who had the experience of what I and Dr Riley had been providing to them. Expectant management is the worst thing you can do because there's really 3 options. If a woman changes her mind after having taken the first pill, she can either not take the second pill and wait and see what happens, expectant management, or she can do what the abortion providers tell her, well, take the second pill, because even though it might be against her consent to do so, but they're forcing her to do it because they say you must do this, even though she's withdrawn her consent by not wanting to do so. Or she could get progesterone. And it seems that from the evidence that's available, that the worst thing you could advise people or women is to do nothing, is to expectant management. So those 3 options, the worst one is what the RCOG are currently recommending, that don't take the second pill. The best option, in our opinion, is to get progesterone because it will not only greatly increase the risk of the baby surviving, but will also reduce the risk of significant hemorrhage. "32 babies have been born. I had 20 babies, so 20 of my women have had healthy, happy babies. 12 of Eileen, so 32 in total, which an overall success rate of about 50 and 55%, which is still not as good as we'd like, but better than the alternative of doing nothing. We've been involved, I've been a cardiologist and general physician for many years. I mean, working in the UK for 19 years in the NHS. But far and away, this is the most rewarding thing that either of us have ever done. It's brought a lot of joy to us and to mothers and their partners, the fathers of the babies, and to their extended families. You fall in love. You fall in love with the women who contact you and come looking for help, even though I've never met any of them. I've met 2 of them well after their babies were born. But I was unaware of the depth of gratitude. It was only when I later read the witness statements that were obtained by the legal team at CLC that I was in tears reading some of the testimonies that these girls gave, because I didn't, while I knew they were appreciative, I just didn't realise the enormity of it until then.
Wow, it's a great story. Now, I gather we've got Dermot himself in the studio, so to speak, and also Rita, one of the mothers featured on that video as well, with us. Here she is. Dermot, thank you so much for joining us. I know you're at work, you're on call, but what a hero you are, saving those various babies. We're so proud of you, really, and grateful for what you've done. How do you feel about the recent decision from the GMC, Dermot?
Can you hear me okay, Jim?
Yeah, we can, yeah.
Yeah, obviously very pleased with the outcome, and relieved, because in a way it came as a little bit of a surprise that it came so soon, because we'd had a recent review of the IoT of the conditions, and the conditions were reimposed or were kept in place, and that was only in January. So then to suddenly have them out of the blue almost revoked was a nice surprise and a relief at that time. Although having said that, I think that the threat of the High Court action, because we had pursued a High Court strategy, offering to take the GMC to the court for the High Court to review the conditions and the way in which they were imposed. And we had set our stall in motion, I suppose, around late September, October. So the GMC are aware of that. And I suspect once it came through to us that the High Court agreed to have a hearing so soon in February, I thought it would be at least 12 months before they agreed. So it was great that they made that offer to hear our case so early in February. I think that's what made the GMC probably suddenly get their act together and get whatever witness statements they needed to look at, so that they could then come up with their final decision.
Yeah. So, and they initially wanted to strike you off, suspend you from treatment altogether, did they, Dermot?
Yeah. So myself and both myself and Dr. Eileen Riley, even though we'd more or less been guilty of the same crime, the GMC pushed for complete suspension. That means we couldn't do any medical work. Our license to practice would be removed for 18 months, wow, pending investigation. The IoT, in fairness to them, felt that was disproportionate.
What's the IoT?
Because the IoT was the interim orders tribunal. So the GMC referred the case to this tribunal, which is part of the Medical Practitioners Tribunal Service. The initial IoT hearing on the 12th of May last year, both sides presented their cases. The written papers had already been presented from both sides. And the IoT only looked really at the allegations. They didn't look at any of the evidence that we had presented at that stage. But they felt that a complete suspension would have been too extreme, disproportionate, because both Dr. Riley and myself had unblemished records in our normal NHS capacity. So they felt to stop us from working as doctors, particularly at a time of crisis for the country, when we're bringing back doctors out of retirement and pleading with people to continue working who were thinking of retiring, because of such a shortage of doctors, especially experienced doctors like ourselves.
Yeah.
So the IoT said, well, yes, we need to investigate, or this needs to be investigated, so we'll impose conditions basically to stop us from providing the service until whatever investigations that they felt were necessary could be carried out.
Wow. So, and what was their rationale? Why did they think you'd done such a wrong thing in actually helping these women who requested taking an abortion pill?
Well, in my own case, there were 10 allegations brought against me. I won't go into all 10 of them, but basically the complaints came from abortion providers. It's very, very important that the public and everybody realize that no complaints whatsoever came from any of the women that we had treated. None of the complaints came from any of their families. That's very important. The only complaints, without any evidence to back the complaints, and that's what turned out. That was the final outcome. The GMC finally realized there was no evidence to support any of the allegations, but the complaints came from In my case, from Mary Stopes, the International MSI,
Right.
and from the Royal College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, and from that abortion advocacy group, Open Democracy.
Right.
Because they didn't like what we were doing. They put forward cases that what we were doing was potentially dangerous, that it was unlicensed, that there was no backing from any reputable medical authorities, that in my case, that I was acting outside of my speciality, whereas at least Eileen Riley is a gynecologist, whereas I'm a cardiologist and general physician, but with a special interest in this area, which I developed over the previous 5 years or more. Also, probably the most humorous allegation was that I didn't follow the NICE guidelines on abortion care provision. I wasn't providing abortion to anyone, and there are no guidelines from anyone apart from the protocols that we have developed and the American colleagues have developed on abortion pill reversal. There are no guidelines in this country on abortion pill reversal, so it is a new area. It was understandable that we had questions to ask, and that was what we wanted. And very often I discussed this with Eileen and with our colleagues in Ireland also, who were doing this too. I felt, at some stage somebody is going to ask us to explain what's going on here, and we would have welcomed that type of investigation to give us an opportunity to describe exactly in detail and with the examples of the cases that we were involved with and that we were following. So we would have welcomed an investigation in that sense, at least an inquisitive investigation, rather than a penal investigation that was set upon us. Because basically it stopped us providing the service to the women who still desperately needed it. The need for this service hasn't gone away, and it won't go away. And even if they hadn't lifted the restrictions against me, there was still always going to be dozens of women every month requesting this service. And as word gets out and people become more aware of it, I suspect that those numbers who regret their decision after they've taken the first abortion pill, I suspect the numbers will grow and grow.
Yeah. So listen, if you're watching live on YouTube or Facebook, do post your comments and questions for Dermot, and we'll see if we can get them there. We're getting comments in here saying, Stella Saunders says, "Thank you for the precious babies you've saved," and many mothers as well. I've met some of the mothers, and we're still hoping Rita can join back on today. Will express how grateful they are for what you've done, Dermot. So just explain. So the treatment that you're administering or you were offering to these mothers is progesterone hormone treatment. Just explain to us why that is and how that works. Most people will have heard of progesterone, I imagine.
But progesterone is a natural hormone, and it's essential to maintain pregnancy. It plays a vital role in the development of the lining of the womb and the development of the placenta, and to maintain pregnancy right throughout pregnancy. Most people probably now realize that in these days, over the last 5, 6, 7 years, the vast majority of abortions in this country are carried out by medical means. They're not surgical abortions. Still a large number, many thousand, are performed by surgical means, but 85% plus in the United Kingdom are performed by medical means. That was the latest figures we have is for 2020. And each year the numbers have been growing steadily since medical abortions first were allowed in this country in 1990. The United States, they weren't allowed until 2000. And year by year, they've been growing steadily, the percentage and the proportion. Medical abortion consists of taking 2 drugs. The first drug is called mifepristone, and that, I mentioned progesterone is essential to maintain pregnancy. Progesterone is a hormone that acts by binding to receptors within the female reproductive tract. Mifepristone is a progesterone receptor blocker, a progesterone receptor antagonist. So it competes directly with the progesterone molecules to prevent progesterone having its effect. So it basically blocks off the effect of progesterone. It's the equivalent as if a woman wasn't producing any progesterone or insufficient degrees of progesterone.
So that's how the first pill works.
That's how the first,
So it basically suppresses the progesterone.
And that results in a process called decidual necrosis. The decidua is the developing endometrium, the inner lining of the womb, the early developing placenta. So it prevents normal development of these essential organs to maintain the pregnancy, and it causes the placenta or the developing placenta, depending on the stage of pregnancy, to separate from the lining of the womb and to start to get shed. Exactly the same as what happens in a period, a menstrual period. And so to some extent, the abortion providers, they're not exactly telling a lie when they say the medical abortion, oh, it's just like having a period. In a way it is, but it's usually a much heavier period, and obviously with lethal consequences for a living human being. The second drug, so the mifepristone is taken on day one, a single tablet. The second drug is taken 1 or 2 days later, as instructed by the abortion providers. It's called misoprostol, and it's a prostaglandin. It causes contraction of the womb and expulsion of the developing embryo or fetus or child, and also the expulsion of the other products of conception, the placenta or the remnants of the placenta. And it causes heavy bleeding and lots of pain and cramps for the mother at that stage. Also, I should have pointed out that the mifepristone, the first drug, as well as having its primary effect on blocking progesterone, it also will soften the cervix and prepare the way for the second drug to have its effect as well. So the treatment that we were given was progesterone because the rationale, and there's a good scientific basis to it, and there are animal studies to back it up, and now obviously lots of evidence from the human race, that if mifepristone is given, and that's the one that blocks the action of progesterone, if in time promptly you can give progesterone in high doses, you might be able to block the effect of the mifepristone, or at least compete, level up the playing field so that you've got a better chance of progesterone binding to those receptors before the mifepristone gets in there. So mifepristone blocks progesterone. Progesterone, in theory, could block mifepristone, and we know that happens in practice. It doesn't always happen, unfortunately. So there isn't any guarantee that if a woman has taken the first abortion pill, she regrets it, and then she seeks progesterone, there isn't any guarantee that her baby will be saved. So obviously it's better, and prevention is better than cure. So we still should encourage mothers not to take mifepristone in the first place, but it gives them a chance. The way I explain to all of the mothers, and the best evidence we have, is that if a mother takes both abortion pills, so she takes mifepristone, and as directed, she takes a second abortion pill 1 or 2 days later, misoprostol, there is a 98 to 99% chance that her baby will die, that the pregnancy will not continue. That doesn't mean that it completely, that the products will all be removed or expelled, because we know that even when the baby is dead, 6 or 7% of the abortions are incomplete, and the mother might still have to go and have a follow-up surgical abortion to remove the products that are still there, or else there's a high risk of ongoing pain, infection, heavy bleeding. But 98 to 99% chance if both abortion pills are taken. If the mother takes the first abortion pill, mifepristone, but decides, I don't want to complete this abortion, I want my baby to be saved, and she doesn't take the second abortion pill as directed, but if she doesn't get progesterone, there is about a 20 to 25% chance that the baby might survive. Depends on a number of factors, depends on the stage of pregnancy, depends on the age of the mother, depends on probably socioeconomic factors, depends on the health of the mother, the obstetric history of the mother. So there's lots of variable factors that might determine on what the outcome might be. But overall, if she takes the first pill but not the second one, but doesn't receive progesterone, the chance of the baby surviving is about 20 to 25% chance. So that's a 75 to 80% chance that the baby will die, even after the first pill. If, as we would advise, she can get progesterone, so not take the second abortion pill. She's already taken the first one, but doesn't take the second one, but gets progesterone, ideally within a matter of hours, certainly within 24 hours, but even up to 72 hours. There's evidence that it can still be beneficial, even up to 72 hours. If she gets progesterone and continues progesterone, has to continue it for several weeks, and that's very important. It's not just a once-off dose, unfortunately. But we can improve the survival rate in the UK up to about 55%, 50 to 55%. The American studies suggest their success rates are better than that, 65 to 70% in their studies. You must keep in mind, however, that there's a much greater awareness of this service in the US. Some states, in fact, have it mandatory that if a woman is offered medical abortion pills, she must be informed that there is a reversal treatment using progesterone for this. So that some states have that legal requirement. We'd like that to be the case over here too. But also there's a much greater awareness. There's 800 or 900 doctors throughout all of the United States, throughout all 50 states, who are providing this abortion pill reversal service. So there's a much greater awareness, and women on average will get their progesterone treatment within 6 hours of taking the first abortion pill. Eileen and myself, our average time was 24 to 25 hours. So that puts us immediately at a disadvantage. But despite that, we still had a 50 to 55% success rate.
Yeah.
The reason I don't know exactly, we can't say exactly what success rate is. It depends on how stringently you regard your success. If your only success criteria is a live, healthy baby at the end, then it's 50%. If you accept that some miscarriages are going to happen naturally, anyway, 10 to 15% of early pregnancies will result in miscarriage. And some of the babies or some of the mothers that we treated, actually they seemed to do very well initially with the treatment. That the progesterone we gave seemed to save the baby, seemed to undo the effect of the mifepristone, because their initial scan was fine, and a few weeks later everything was going fine, and then 5-6 weeks later they lost their baby. So it's difficult to know, were they lost because of the mifepristone? Was it because it was some other problem that had nothing to do with mifepristone or progesterone? So we're not exactly sure what our success rate is, but 50 to 55% is.
I see.
If you took every case that survived beyond 28 days, then our success rate was almost 60%. But that would be a bit.
32 healthy babies to show for it, which is remarkable.
Overall, 50, 55% with 32 healthy babies.
Yeah, amazing. So I gather Rita is now back on the line, which is great, and she is one of the mothers of one of these babies. Rita, you're muted by the looks of my screen now, yeah, we can hear you. Great. So tell us what happened for you in your experience when you went for an abortion pill.
So my experience was I fell pregnant and it wasn't planned. So then it was panic, and I think that would be the case for most parents that don't plan this type of thing. So I panicked, thought about, okay, what are my options, and obviously abortion is one of the options. So I went down that route, went straight to BPAS, expected them to be able to answer a lot of my questions, and give me as much information as possible and as much as I wanted.
This is all over the phone, yeah?
This was all over the phone because this is towards the end of not lockdown, but the COVID period. So it was all over the phone, and I had the first initial call, and then I booked an appointment to ask them questions, get them answered. Unfortunately, that wasn't the
another
case.
Phone appointment, yeah?
Yeah, another phone appointment. And that wasn't the case. None of my questions were actually answered. So then I thought, okay, well,
what kind of questions did you have then?
A lot of them were moral questions.
Right.
Because I've never had to think, okay, well, do I believe in abortions or not? So when it did come up, that's when I had to think, and I had to think, okay, well, is it morally? It's fine. I don't see a problem if someone came up to me and said, okay, I want an abortion. I wouldn't sit there and say, oh, that's horrible. I would sit there and advise them, and that's their choice, and if I can help as much as possible. But in my case, it was, is it okay for me? Would I be able to live with it after? And so it was basically moral questions. It was, okay, well, when does a baby become a baby? All these questions that I thought BPAS should be ready to answer if questioned. And that wasn't the case. It was simple as, do you want an abortion or not? And I was like, in the moment, I was like, okay, yes. Because I didn't think, I wasn't sure. And I was panicked.
Yeah. So then they posted you the tablet.
Yeah. So they posted me a tablet, I believe about 3 days later.
Right.
And because my baby's dad, he wanted a baby. So it's and obviously I wanted her as well to a certain extent, but I was like, oh, what, with the amount of hormones going through my body, I was like, oh, what do I want? So I waited another week, just thinking, okay, is this what I want or not what I want? Asking people that I know have had abortion in the past, okay, do they regret it? This. And a lot of them do. A lot of them do say, even 9 years down the line, and say, okay, well, I think my child could be 9 at this point. So I was like, okay, well,
yes,
I can't go through regret. So I waited a week and then I panicked, thinking about finances, and within that one moment, I just took the pill and regretted it straight after.
Right. So then what do you do then?
So then I cried a lot first. Then then I thought in my head, I didn't think there was anything that I could do to go back. I had zero information of what the first pill did, even though that was one of the questions I asked after BPAS. And so I had no idea. So in my mind, I was like, okay, that's it, it's done, I'm having an abortion. Then I was like, I just said, oh, in a year's time, I will be ready for a baby and stuff. And it's like, okay, well, why am I giving up this child for a year's time?
Right.
Just to have another one. It doesn't make sense to me. Then I just Googled. First I called BPAS, I believe. I called them and I said, okay, I regret my decision. What do I do now? And they just said, the first pill, a lot of women do regret it after the first pill.
Wow, they said that today. That's quite interesting. Wow.
That's what I was quite shocked at, because I was like, well, surely shouldn't be handing out so easily.
Yes. Yeah.
And so she just said, if you don't feel like you're having an abortion, then you're not. It's fine. Just don't have a second one. And in my mind, I still panicked, because I thought, okay, well, I don't want anything to damage my child either. So I then Googled for abortion. Well, I think I Googled something. I'm not sure exactly, but it was something along the line, what do I do if I take the first abortion pill? Then I heard of the abortion reversal pill. And then I Googled that, because I know it's available in the US. Didn't realize it was available in the UK. And then I come across Dermot. I believe I was on the phone to, I believe it might be Dermot's sister. I'm not 100% sure. And then, we had the conversation. And in all honesty, it's a bit of a blur, because I was full of hormones, panic, and it was just adrenaline. And then Dermot said, okay, you can pick it up from this pharmacy. He even offered to help me financially pay for it and to pick up the prescription. And I said, oh, no, that's fine. And then I went the next morning, because I believe that was quite late. The next morning, I started bleeding a bit. So I was like, I don't know if I was supposed to be on live. But then I ran to the pharmacy, got the pill, and then took it. And that was my experience. And I never looked back afterwards. I never thought. If anything, I've been so grateful.
And that's the progesterone pill that Dr. Dermot prescribed for you. And I think we've got some pictures of your baby that we can share as well. Fantastic. Now 4 months old, I think, isn't she? Yeah. What a beautiful little baby. There we are. And if it wasn't for Dermot and those pills that you were able to get from the pharmacy, the little baby wouldn't be there, wouldn't be here.
No, I honestly, I don't know what I would have done if she wasn't here. I think Dermot saved her life and mine, in all honesty.
Yes. Yeah. Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. We've got somebody here saying that brought tears to my eyes. Also, someone on Facebook saying about the regret. So true. I regret doing it even 3 decades later. And there is a lot of people who have this regret and carry it around with them. But very few of them are brave enough to actually share that and talk about it. So thank you so much for doing that, Rita. And Dermot, it must be so rewarding for you to see these babies and know that you've played a significant part in saving their lives there. You're muted just now.
Sorry, I disappeared for a second. It is actually, I qualified in 1989, so I've been more than 32 years in this business of practicing medicine. And both myself and Eileen, and she's been qualified not quite as long, but almost. We've talked about this many times among ourselves, and we both agree that this little adventure, this experience, helping women in this situation, is far and away the most rewarding thing that we've ever done in our medical careers. The depth of gratitude. Again, I wasn't aware of it. I'm delighted to meet Amrita again. I've met her a couple of times before now. Most of the mothers I've never met, and I knew that they were grateful, because I kept in contact with Amrita and all of the ladies that I helped for as long as necessary during each case, and even after the babies were born. And I gave them a telephone number and contact details if there was any problems at any time whatsoever, day or night, that they were free to contact me. But I didn't realize the full depth of gratitude until I read some of the witness statements that the legal centre had obtained for me. Because when we were taken, but when the IOT sort of put this restrictions on us, and we knew that we were going to have to fight for our rights here. One of the things, we got our expert witness, I wrote my witness statement, our expert witness wrote his witness statement, but we knew it was going to be essential to get some sort of witness statements from the people most involved in this, and that was the mothers themselves. So we got, I think, 10 in total witness statements. And I didn't know the depth of gratitude until I read some of the statements, because I wasn't involved in obtaining any statements. It was all done through the Christian legal people. And then eventually I was allowed to see what had been said when we were about to present them at the tribunal hearing.
We've got a question here for you from John Sharp on YouTube, and he says, did you feel you were doing something that would be opposed by the authorities? And how did it feel to be doing that?
Yeah, I didn't think it would be opposed by the authorities, because before we started this, I'm a member of the Catholic Medical Association, and we had decided we wanted to help because we had received calls from Good Counsel Network and from the pro-life organisations to inform us that more and more women were coming to them seeking help, regretting the decision after taking the first abortion pill. And they made us aware of the abortion pill reversal process, actually. And that's why I started researching it. So before we even began the service, we had written to the Royal College of Obstetricians, we had written to the Royal College of General Practitioners, we wrote to NHS England, we eventually wrote to the GMC. The three first bodies, the education bodies, and they wouldn't support us. They said, "Oh, we're not prepared to support the use of an unlicensed medication." Now, what they failed to add was that misoprostol, the tablet I mentioned, which is the second abortion pill, that is not licensed for abortion. It's licensed for management of peptic ulcer disease as a prostaglandin, but it's not licensed for abortion use. And I pointed that out to them, and we received no response to that. NHS England said,
it's actually, and so people understand, because I'm aware of this, but people might not be, the use of medications off license, so to speak, is quite common, isn't it? A lot of medication is
very common. It happens in all areas of medicine, because a medication is, let's say, initially introduced for some specific indication, and then maybe a few years later it's discovered, oh, it's actually useful in this indication. So it's used in an off license. So it's not being used for the initial license, but it is a licensed medication, but just being used in a new way, as long as it's found to be safe and effective. And progesterone, there was well over 10 years of experience of progesterone in this situation of abortion pill reversal coming from the US. So we knew by that stage, and I'd looked into it for several years before we got involved. But then eventually we wrote to the GMC and we asked them I think it was a very important question, that if a woman who's pregnant, takes the first abortion pill, regrets it, and comes to a doctor seeking help to save her baby, what should a doctor do? So that was a very reasonable question. And the GMC at the time, this is 2019, said, well, we're not able, it's beyond our remit to comment on specific clinical scenarios. However, we would point out from their guidance that they've published that every patient, regardless of situation, every patient is entitled to know what treatment options are available to them at all stages of their treatment process. They're also entitled to withdraw their consent from any treatment or management strategy and to seek alternative forms of treatment. So that while they didn't specifically say, oh yeah, this is a great idea, they didn't say there was anything wrong with it. And they, by those words, we took it that this was at least...
Okay, right.
Yeah, they were saying that there was nothing wrong with doing this. So we then wrote back to all of the original bodies, the Royal Colleges, the NHS England, quoting word for word exactly what the GMC had said. This was 2019.
Yeah.
And we said, we presume at this stage you will have no objections to us bringing this to the attention of the public, to publicise it. Then we started work on it from 2019 on. And we didn't start service until 2020. And we got no response. Nobody said, oh, that's terrible, you can't do that. Or no, we object strongly to this. We gave them the opportunity and no opportunities. Nobody took the opportunity to discuss it with us. And we wanted it to be discussed because we wanted this to become part of mainstream NHS care. We felt that women were calling for the service. It wasn't available because nobody else would provide it. We felt we have to provide it. And the GMC had informed us that people are entitled, all patients are entitled to know what reasonable treatment options are available to them. So I didn't expect that I was going to be hauled in by the GMC. I thought that they had more or less decided there was no case.
So you thought you were doing something that the GMC is basically tacitly approved of.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And even further, so even when the to take it even further in relation to the GMC, the GMC have set up in recent years a body called their Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Forum. This was to show that there's no racism or any discrimination against minority groups within the GMC circle. And I, as president at the time of the Catholic Medical Association, was invited to attend those meetings, as were lots of other minority and ethnic minority and religion, faith-based groups of doctors. And at each meeting, we had to give a little report on what our organizations had been doing. And in April 2021, so exactly 3 weeks before the allegations were made known to us, or just more than 3 weeks, I gave a report on the Catholic Medical Association members involved in providing the service to women who had regretted taking the mifepristone, and we were offering this progesterone treatment. And at that stage, I told them how many women we had treated, how many babies had been born. And the chairperson said, "Oh, thank you very much, Dr. Kearney, very good. We'll move on to the next one." So it wasn't as if the GMC weren't made aware of this, either beforehand or while it was being done. And suddenly, 3 weeks later, Eileen and myself received these emails to say that serious allegations had been brought against us because of our role in providing this service. So that came as a shock.
You were totally shocked and surprised when those letters came through, basically.
Yeah, I thought the Royal College of Obstetricians would ask us to explain ourselves, because I felt this is sort of their area. They're going to be interested. I thought maybe the abortion providers might approach us and say, you know, what are you doing here? You're interfering with our business. But they didn't. They just went behind our backs and they went straight to the GMT and not making us aware. I found out later that I was being investigated from January 2021 until late April 2021. So lots of emails and letters were going on, without us being aware of them, trying to build a case against us. But of course, there was no evidence. So all they had was hearsay, attempt to fabricate evidence, attempt to manipulate witnesses, and to turn people against us, so people that we had helped. But that didn't work. And all of the women that had any consultations with myself have been very supportive of me.
So what's the status of this now? Now you're totally free to offer progesterone to women who regret taking that first pill?
Yeah, I think so. I'm licensed to practice medicine. The GMC have investigated it, and their expert witness and our expert witness both agree that the treatment itself is not a problem, and it's reasonable for a non-gynecologist, a non-obstetrician to offer this service to women, as long as he or she has got the necessary experience and knowledge to do so safely, and is prepared to keep good records of what they're doing and to report any adverse effects that might develop. So we're very happy to, which is what we wanted to do all along. So yes, we're hoping to re-establish the service very soon. There will be a few. We want to add in a few, I suppose, robust protections to make sure that nobody else can attack us from any other quarters to try and close us down again. In a way, this whole episode, while it's been very sad, because we know that since in the 9-month period the first 9-month period that the service was shut down, we know that 160 women have approached the Heartbeat International. That's the helpline that I think Amrita probably approached, seeking help. And they had to be told, these are women in the UK, and they had to be told, I'm sorry, but there's no help available at this time. So that's what we know, that all of those women probably wouldn't have gone ahead with the treatment because of the 140 or so that I counselled. Not all of them decided to go ahead with treatment, but a large number of them would have done. And a lot of those babies would have been saved that otherwise had been lost. So probably somewhere between 30 and 50 babies have died that probably would have been saved if we had been allowed to continue.
That's quite a thought, isn't it? 30 to 50 babies would have been saved
in that 8-9 month period.
Not for the GMC interfering. Rita, what's your thought on how Dermot's been treated? Go on. You're muted at the moment. You're muted.
I think it's slightly ridiculous, just because, like Dermot said, the amount of babies that could have been saved. I think that's sad in itself, of knowing that, well, this is how many could have been saved and they weren't saved.
Yeah.
Due to someone not doing the research beforehand, at least. But I'm really happy that Dermot's able to do it and other people are able to provide this tablet. I think it's incredible now that there's something that people can take after making, I would say, a slight mistake. So I think it's ended well. But I think the whole case of Dermot and like trying to stop the pill. I think me personally, I think it's ridiculous. I think people should have, if people have a choice to have an abortion or not have an abortion, they should have a choice to also reverse that as well.
So you'd recommend it to people, women who regret taking the pill like you did?
Oh, definitely, yeah. I think absolutely. If like I said, if Dermot wasn't there, if the pill wasn't there, then I don't know how my life would have been right now. If anything, it's something that I don't want to think about. So I'm so grateful to Dermot. Definitely considering it was just like, the way I see it is, I think I was looking at the dates of when Dermot Dermot had to stop giving out the pill, and I believe it was only like a few months after I took mine. And my thought straight away was, oh, if I was in that time when Dermot couldn't provide them, it would, I don't know. It's something I don't want to think about.
No, yeah. Well, listen, thank you both so much for joining us and taking the time and persevering with various technical difficulties here and there as well. And thank you, Rita, for being so brave and outspoken with your story. And thank you, Dermot. And we really look forward to this service becoming more available and more publicly known about as well, and to hearing and seeing many more babies born as a result. What a fantastic ministry and service you're providing there. Amazing work. A superhero of ours at Christian Concern here. We love what you're doing. And thank you for watching and listening, and look forward to seeing you again next week. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you too. Thanks, Amrita.